I'm 76 years old, and my house has been quiet for 14 long years now. The kids are gone, the dinners are smaller, and some rooms up there are still hard to open. For a long while, I thought that quiet was the end of my story, the last chapter closing. I was wrong. The quiet wasn't the end. It turned out to be a blank and waiting page. Tonight I'll tell you the 7 steps that turned this empty nest back into my own home. Let me tell you who's talking to you, so you know these words were paid for in full. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. I never wrote a book or stood on any stage. I'm just a woman who married young, raised 3 children, and outlived a good husband. His name was Walter. He's been gone 11 years, and I still set his cup out some mornings. I raised 2 girls and a boy in this house, on a street where the maples turn gold each fall. Ellen came first, then Ruth, and last of all, my boy, Michael, who filled every room he entered. For 30 years this house was loud. Shoes by the door, homework, somebody always hungry. I cooked for 5 every single night, and I complained about the noise, the way fools do. I'd have given anything later for one more evening of that racket around my table. Then they grew the way children do, all at once and when you're looking the other way. Ellen married and moved 2 states over. Ruth took a job in the city and rarely looked back. And Michael, my youngest, packed a single suitcase the autumn he turned 22. I remember standing in the driveway, waving, smiling so he wouldn't see my face fall. His truck turned the corner, and the silence that came down on that house was total. I walked back inside, and the quiet met me at the door like a stranger who'd moved in. The clock in the hall ticked, and I could hear it for the first time in 30 years. I made dinner that night out of pure habit, set the table for 1, and couldn't eat it. Here's the mistake I carried for years, and it cost me some of the best evenings of my life. I believed my whole worth walked out that door in my children's suitcases and left me empty. I thought a mother with no one left to mother was just a woman waiting to be forgotten. So I sat in that emptiness, and I called it grief, and I let it swallow the years whole. I kept their rooms exactly as they'd left them, like little museums to a life that was over. I waited by the phone for calls that came less and less, and I built my days around waiting. I told myself I was being a good mother, keeping the porch light on, keeping the rooms ready. But the truth is, I'd stopped living my own life the very day my last child started his. It took me too long to see that the quiet wasn't punishing me. It was offering me something. This house didn't have to be a monument to who I used to be. It could be mine again. Not the mother's house, not the widow's house. My house for the first time in my whole life. That's the turn I want for you tonight, if your own halls have gone quiet and strange. So pour yourself something warm, and let an old woman walk you through it, step by step. 7 steps, that's all. Small ones, the kind you take in slippers, not in a hurry. I didn't climb out of that silence in a day. It took me a season, then another, then a life. And I did it with these 2 hands and a stubborn heart and no map, which is why I'm drawing you one. If you're over 60 and your house echoes now, these 7 steps are for you, honey. If the kids are gone and the dinners are small and some doors are hard to open, stay with me. I won't promise you the loneliness lifts all at once, because that would be a lie to you. But I'll promise you this: there's a life on the other side of that quiet, and it is yours. I'm living it right now, in this same house, at this same table, where I once wept alone. The rooms that broke my heart are the rooms I love best now. That's the whole story, really. So let me start where I started, at the bottom, on the worst night, and climb up with you. The first step is the hardest, and it's this: let the quiet in before you rush to fill it. When Michael left, I couldn't stand the silence, so I filled every hour I could with noise. I left the television on all day, talking to an empty room, just for the sound of a voice. I called my daughters too often, over nothing, until I heard the tiredness creep into their hellos. I kept so busy scrubbing a clean house that I never once sat still long enough to feel it, because I was afraid that if I stopped moving, the emptiness would rise up and drown me whole. One night the television broke, and the house went truly silent, and I sat down and shook. And then a strange thing happened. Nothing. The silence didn't kill me. It just sat with me. I sat in my kitchen in that deep quiet, and for the first time I could hear my own thinking. I heard how tired I was. I heard what I missed. I heard, underneath it all, that I was still here. The quiet, it turns out, isn't your enemy. It's the sound of a house waiting for a new life. You can't build a thing while you're running from the silence with the television blaring. So this is the first step. Sit down in it. Let the quiet come and sit beside you like an old dog. Don't drown it. Don't fill it. Don't fear it. Just let it be there, one evening, and breathe. It won't swallow you. I promise you that. It will, in time, start to feel like peace. That was the night my new life started. Not with a bang, but with me finally sitting still. The second step is to reclaim one room and make one space in your house that is only yours. For years, I kept Michael's room like a shrine, the bed made, his old posters still on the wall. I'd stand in the doorway and I couldn't go in, and I couldn't change a single thing in it. It was the same with the girls' room, frozen, dusted, waiting for children who were grown. Half my house was a museum to the past, and I was the lonely old woman who kept it locked. One spring, my friend Dorothy said a thing to me that I've never once forgotten since that day. She said, "Honey, they took their whole lives with them. Why are you still guarding their childhoods?" It landed like a slap, and then like a gift. She was right. They were gone, and living, and fine. So one Saturday, I opened Michael's door, and I sat on his bed, and I let myself cry it out. And then I boxed up the posters, gently, and I painted those walls a soft and buttery yellow. I moved my sewing machine in by the window where the good morning light comes pouring through. I put a chair in there and a lamp and a little table for my tea, and I made it mine. It's my room now, my sewing room. The first room in this house that was ever only for me. I didn't erase my son. I keep his baby picture on that windowsill, smiling at me while I work. But I stopped guarding a childhood that was over, and I let a grown woman have a room instead. So pick one room, honey, just one. Open the door you've kept shut and let some new light in. Make it yours, a reading room, a sewing room, a place to paint. It doesn't matter which. What matters is that somewhere in your house there is finally a door that opens onto you. The third step happens at the table, and it is this: learn to cook for one, with love. For years, the kitchen was where the quiet hit me the hardest, standing at that stove alone. I'd cooked for a family of 5 for 30 years, and I'd forgotten how to cook for just me. So mostly, I didn't. I ate crackers over the sink. I ate cold beans from the can, standing up. I told myself a real meal wasn't worth the trouble for one lonely old woman. Not anymore. And every sad little non-supper was me quietly telling myself that I no longer mattered much. One evening I caught my reflection in the dark window, eating toast alone in my coat, and I stopped. I thought, if my Ellen were eating like this, alone and joyless, it would break my heart in two. And here I was, doing it to myself night after night, as if I were the one soul who didn't count. So the next night I cooked, a proper supper for one, a pork chop, greens, a baked potato. I set the table, a real plate, the good one, a cloth napkin, a candle from the back drawer. I sat down across from the empty chair, and I ate slowly, and I tasted my own food again. It felt foolish for about 5 minutes, and then it felt like the kindest thing I'd done in years. Because a woman who sets a lovely table for herself is a woman who knows she's still worth it. Cooking for one isn't a sad thing, honey. It's you telling yourself you still deserve the good plate. So make the meal, light the candle, sit down at your own table like the guest of honor you are. You didn't stop mattering when the mouths you fed grew up and left this house and moved away. That plate you set for yourself is the whole lesson. Eat like you love the woman you're feeding. The fourth step is to build a rhythm that belongs to you, a shape for the long, empty days. When you raise a family, your whole day is built around other people's clocks and other needs. You wake to feed them. You drive to fetch them. Your hours are cut to fit their lives, not yours. And then one day they're gone, and the clock is suddenly, terribly, all your own to fill up. That much empty time is a frightening gift, and at first I didn't know what to do with it. I let the days blur together, shapeless, one gray morning bleeding into the next with no edges. I'd stay in my robe until noon because there was no reason on earth to get dressed for no one. And a life with no shape to it, I learned the slow way, quietly slides on into the dark. So I built myself a rhythm, small and mine, one gentle habit at a time, to hold the days up. Now I rise with the light. I make my coffee in the blue cup, and I sit on the porch to drink it. I walk to the end of the lane and back, and I say good morning to the Petersons' old brown dog. I tend my garden in the cool of the day, and I sew in the yellow room when the light is high. In the evening, I read a chapter or two, and I write one line in a journal before the lamp goes out. None of it is grand. It's just a shape, a trellis for a life to climb up out of the dark on. You are allowed to build your days around yourself now. That isn't selfish. It's plain survival. So make yourself a morning, honey, a small ritual that is yours, that no one can take or interrupt. Get dressed for the woman you are, not for who might see you. She's worth dressing for, that one. The shape you give your day is the shape you give your whole life. Build it kind and build it yours. The fifth step asks a little courage. Reach outward and put one new thread out into the world. After a while, my house was mine, and my days had a shape, but the walls were still awfully close. A life spent all alone in a quiet house will curl in on itself like a dry leaf in the fall. I knew I needed people again, but at my age, that felt as impossible as learning to fly. I'd let my friendships thin over the years, too busy raising a family to keep the old threads mended. And making a new friend this late felt like a young woman's game I was far too old to play. But the loneliness weighed more than the fear, so one Tuesday I made myself do a terrifying thing. I walked down to the church hall, where they hold a quilting circle every Tuesday morning. My hand shook on the door. I nearly turned around twice. I felt like a girl on her first day of school. But I went in, and I sat down, and a woman named Fran handed me a needle and a square of cloth. And we talked about nothing, about everything, and 3 hours melted like frost in the sun. I have friends again now, Fran and Dorothy, and a widow named June, who makes me laugh till I ache. We are old women with sore hands, sewing quilts for babies we'll likely never meet, and it is joy. That one thread, one Tuesday, one open door, pulled a whole new life in after it, one I love. So find your one thread, honey. A class, a circle, a church, a bench where the same folks gather. Volunteer an hour. Rock the babies at the hospital. Read to children. Put yourself where people are. You don't have to make 10 friends. You have to walk through one door, one time, with a shaking hand. The world did not stop needing you when your children grew. It has a chair with your name on it. The sixth step is about your children, and it's a hard and tender one. So lean in close now. Learn to love your grown children from the doorway, and stop trying to live in the center of them. When mine first left, I held on far too tight, the way you clutch at something you're losing. I called Ruth 3 times a day. I asked too many questions. I gave advice nobody had asked for. I'd hear the strain in their voices, and I'd feel it, and I couldn't seem to make myself stop. I was so afraid of being forgotten that I made myself a weight they had to carry around. And a mother who clings out of fear pushes her children further off, one worried call at a time. One day, Ruth said, gently, "Mom, I love you, but I need room to live my own life out here." It cut me to the bone. And then, slowly, I understood she wasn't rejecting me. She was growing up. My job had changed. For 30 years, I was the center of their world, and now I was the doorway. Not the whole house anymore. The doorway they come home to, warm and lit when they need it. So I loosened my grip. I called less. I listened more. And I let them come to me in their own time. And a strange thing happened. With a little room to breathe, they came closer, not further away. Ruth calls me now on Sunday evenings, and we talk like two grown women who happen to love each other. When they visit, I don't cling and I don't guilt. I feed them well and send them off with leftovers. Love them enough to let them go, honey, and love yourself enough to build a life that isn't only them. Be the doorway, warm and open, but have a whole rich house of your own behind it, lit and alive. The 7th step is the one that changes everything. Plant something in this life that is only yours. A room, a rhythm, a friend, a softer love for your children. All of it holds the quiet at bay. But a life needs more than comfort. It needs a reason to get up that belongs to you alone. When you're young and raising a family, your dreams get folded up small and put on a high shelf. Mine did. I'd wanted to paint once as a girl. I had a way with watercolors, my mother always said. But there was never time, never money, never a good enough reason, so the brushes went in a drawer. For 50 years, I told myself that painting was a young girl's foolishness I'd long outgrown. Then, one quiet winter, in my new yellow room, I found that old tin of dried-up paints in a box, and I thought, well, who exactly am I saving myself for now? What am I still waiting to become? So I bought a cheap set of brushes and a pad of paper, and I made the ugliest picture you ever saw. And I laughed out loud, alone in my room, for the first time in longer than I could remember. I've been painting ever since. Nothing for a gallery, just the maple out front in every season. But it's mine. It's the thing that is only mine, the dream I finally took down off that high shelf. There is a dream you folded up and shelved 40 years ago for the sake of everyone else. It is not too late to take it down. It's dusty, not dead. That's the difference, and it matters. Learn the piano, plant the roses, write the letters, take the class, paint the ugly, glorious picture. The house went quiet so you could finally hear what you want. So plant it, water it, watch it grow. That is the 7th step, and it is the whole point of the other 6, a life that is finally your own. Now let me sit with you a while longer and tell you how these steps look on the ordinary days. Because the quiet doesn't leave all at once. It comes back some evenings and knocks on the door. The first holiday alone is the hardest thing there is, and I won't pretend to you that it isn't. That first Thanksgiving after Michael left, I set the table for one, and I could not sit down at it. So now, on the hard days, I've learned a small trick, and I'll give it to you to keep for yourself. I don't try to fill the whole empty day. I just do the next small kind thing, and then the next. Make the coffee. Water the fern. Call one friend. Walk to the corner. One small thing, then another. The grief comes in waves, honey, and you don't fight the wave. You just keep your feet, and it passes. Last winter, I found a box in the closet full of my children's old drawings and their school papers. I sat on the floor for 2 hours, laughing and crying over crayon suns and lopsided family portraits. The old me would have wept for a week and put the box away like a wound she could not close. But I've learned the difference between remembering with love and drowning in what is gone. I kept a few, framed them for the hall, and let the rest go with a kiss and a full and grateful heart. That's the whole art of it, to hold the past gently without ever letting it hold you under. My Ellen called me last Sunday, worried the way that grown daughters worry over their mothers. She said, "Mom, are you lonely out there, all by yourself in that big old house at night?" And I could tell her with a whole heart, "No, darling, I'm not lonely. I'm alone, and I'm all right." There's a difference, and it took me years to learn it. And I could hear her relax to hear me say it. Alone is just a plain fact of my evenings. Lonely is a wound, and mine has quietly, finally healed. She said, "Mom, you sound happy." And I said, "I am," and neither of us could quite believe it. I ran into an old friend at the market this spring, a woman I'd raised my babies right alongside. Her house had gone quiet too, and she was where I'd been years ago, gray-faced and lost in it. She said, "How do you do it? How do you stand the silence?" And I took her cold hands in mine. I told her everything I'm telling you tonight, right there in the aisle by the canned tomatoes. And I watched a little light come back into her eyes, the way it once came back into my own. She's in the quilting circle now, right next to me every Tuesday, and her house is her own again. That's the other gift of climbing out. You get to reach a hand back down to the next tired woman. Sometimes I think about what I'd say to my younger self, the harried woman I was at 40. I'd tell her, "Love this loud house, but don't vanish inside it, or you'll be lost when it empties." I'd say, keep one thread of yourself alive through all the mothering. One friend, one dream, 1 hour. Don't fold yourself away so completely that there's no you left to come back to at the end of it. And if you're younger than me, listening in tonight, that's the one thing I'd beg you to carry off. Stay a person, not only a mother. The children leave. The person is the one you get to keep. But if you're my age and you already gave your whole self away, then hear this. You can be found. I know it because I was as lost as anyone alive, and I found the whole woman waiting in the quiet. So here is what I'd have you do this very week, if your own house has gone still and strange. Open one shut door and sit down in the room and let the crying come if it wants to come. Then, when you're ready, move one thing. Hang one new picture. Let one shade of new light in. Cook yourself one good supper and sit down to eat it slow, like you matter, because you truly do. And find one door in your town to walk through. One circle, one class, one warm and friendly room. You don't have to do all 7 steps tonight. You only have to take the very first small one. The whole staircase is climbed the same way, honey. One slow step, in your slippers, in the dark. Now, let me tell you why this works, why an empty house can truly become a full life again. It isn't magic, and it isn't luck, and it surely isn't because I'm a stronger woman than you are. It's because a mother's love doesn't shrink when her children leave. It just needs a new place to go. All those years, I poured my whole heart into other people, and that heart didn't stop when they left. It just had nowhere to pour, and a love with nowhere to go turns into an ache. That's all it is. So the 7 steps are really 7 new places to pour the same great love you already carry inside. Into a room, into a meal, into a friend, a garden, a painting, a grown child you have learned to free.
The love was never the problem, honey. It was only ever the not knowing where to set it back down. And here is the deeper thing, the one I most want you to take up to bed with you tonight. Your life was never only about raising them. That was one beautiful season of it, but only one. There's a whole other season waiting on the far side of the quiet, and it can be the sweetest yet. Not because it's loud, but because, for the first time in your long life, it belongs to you alone. Last evening I sat on my porch in the gold light with my coffee in the blue cup, and I looked back. At the driveway where I once waved my boy away and thought my whole life was ending right there. And I wanted to walk back to that shattered woman in the driveway and take her by the shoulders. I'd tell her, the house going quiet isn't the end of you. It's the first morning of your own life. Those rooms that broke your heart will be the rooms you love best. That silence will turn to peace. You will set a table for one and light a candle, and it will feel like a feast. I promise you it will. The quiet is not the end of your story, my dear. It's only a blank and open page still waiting, and you still hold the pen. At 60, at 70, at 80, the pen is right there in your own hand. So here is the one small thing I'd ask of you before you sleep, if you'll do it for an old woman. Go and stand in the doorway of the room you've kept shut, and just open it and turn on the light. You don't have to change a thing tonight. Only let the light in and know the door still opens. That's how it starts. A door, a light, an old woman on a porch telling you it is not too late. Because it is not too late. Not for you. Let me say it plainly, the way I wish someone had told me. The house is quiet now, yes, but quiet is not empty. Quiet is just a room waiting for a new life. And you, my dear, are the one who gets to fill it. No one is coming to do it, and you don't need them to. If this old voice reached you tonight, then stay a while, subscribe, and come sit with me again. There's a chair on this porch for you, always, for the evenings when the house runs too quiet. And next time, I want to talk to you about the grown children who drift further than a quiet house, about the ones who don't call at all, and the long, cold silence between a mother and a child gone quiet. I'm calling it the day my daughter finally called again, and what I'd stopped doing to bring her home. It's the hardest quiet of all, and there's a way through that one too, and I want to sit in it with you. So bring your coffee back to this porch, and I'll leave the light on for you, the way I promised. Thank you for staying with me tonight. It means more than an old woman can